Good morning, everyone. I guess it's not morning, it's afternoon where I'm at. If it's morning where you're at, good morning, good evening. Wanted to pop on. It's Tuesday. I was supposed to go live with Rini York today, and she's had something come up. So I'm just going to do it myself. I'm winging it today. So here we are. So if you're coming on, please say hi to me. I'd love to hear from you. So let me know you're on. And honestly, I'm just going to open up to spirit because what I was going to do with Rini today, obviously, is not what we're going to do now. So we will reschedule that with her and just see if we can't do that at a different time. But I woke up today. I'm just going to talk about what's in my heart because, hello, Sandra, because I got up today and I've had to make some big decisions today, and I've been working through some things personally and in business, and have had to make some hard choices today. And I realized sometimes when we had to make hard choices, it's because it's for our own good, and we don't always like it. It's not always what we want. And the thing that I was thinking about this morning is I knew I had to get up and have some hard conversations today. Hello, Trish. And Sandra, can't remember if I said hi to you, but hello, Sandra. I realized I had some hard decisions to make today. And so I was thinking about what do we do when we have to make hard decisions? And I know for me, for a long time, I've kind of set on this decision because I felt like it was easier to just kind of ignore it. And if you're on with me and you've done that before, raise your hand, put a hell yes in the comments. How many times do we just kind of become complacent and think, oh, maybe it'll just take care of itself, or oh, maybe, and sometimes it does. Sometimes it works itself out. But this morning, as I got up and I was thinking about hard conversations today and things that Sandra's like, oh, hell yes. I was thinking about these hard conversations that we have, and sometimes we just don't want to have them. Sometimes we just avoid doing it. But what if, Trish is like, yep, what if that one conversation was going to be very much transformational for both of you? What if the decision that you had to make affected other people in such a positive way that later on they come back and thank you? At the time they weren't grateful, but later on they come back and thank you for having the courage, having the strength to have those conversations with them. Because it's not always easy to tell people some things. It's uncomfortable. We don't, we want people to love us. We want people to like us. We want all the things. And sometimes things that we have to say doesn't always come across as the most lovable and likable thing. So I've been thinking a lot about that today and how many times we just stay uncomfortable instead of reaching out. And what I realized this morning is when I set my intention for this to be the best outcome for both of us, I realized how much easier that conversation went. How much easier it was for me to say, I just don't think this is working out. And I think that we need to think about what we're doing here and do some things differently. And when I said that in a way that was loving and kind and compassionate towards the other person, not accusatory, and I think this is bullshit, we're just done. When I approached it that way, things went so much easier. And so it taught me a lot today. And I've known this, I'm sure we all know this. But sometimes it gets scary to stand up and say what we feel we need to say. But part of our healing and growing, I keep saying this in a lot of things, I'm like, a healed person is not afraid to have the conversations. And I'll even take it a step further. A person who is in the healing process is not afraid to have these difficult conversations because we understand that there's growth in everything that we do. And every step of the way, and everything that we take on, and all the things that show up in our life, if we will allow these things, they will be growing stepping stones for us. But if we ignore them, they become that rose thorn in our back. because we're not taking care of them. I have noticed for myself in the past, and you can say hell yes if you get that too, when I ignore these things, I usually start having physical symptoms too. And I usually start feeling it in my neck and shoulders because I realize I'm carrying things differently. Maybe my back starts hurting. Maybe some other things start kind of creeping up on me. And all that stress in there is causing issues that I think I'm avoiding by not dealing with it. Does anybody understand that? You can put a whole hell yes in the comments too. Our bodies are a really good indicator of what's going on inside, but most of us don't listen to them. We don't hear them. This morning, Spirit gave me the beautiful analogy of how many times, if you've ever used a pressure cooker, Sandra's like, oh, hell yes, there's another hell yes. Yeah, Trish, that's where I feel it too. This morning, Spirit gave me the analogy of a pressure cooker. And those of you who know what a pressure cooker is, it can be used for, in my neck of woods, it's used a lot for, I have a big one. I don't use it because I'm not a canner. I bought it thinking that I was going to be this canner, and I'm just not. So I have it sitting in my basement, but I have a smaller pressure cooker that I use too. And the whole point of a pressure cooker is to put things in a confined space and bring it up so that there is pressure in there to cook it, do all the things. If you've ever used one, they get super hot. And they have the little jiggly thing on top, which is the pressure, that if it's at the right temperature, the little jiggly thing, whatever it's called on the top, will just sit there and jiggle like it's supposed to. But so many times in life, and Spirit gave me this perfect analogy, we put the pressure cooker on the stove and we turn it up on freaking high and we leave it there. And we do this to ourselves by putting too much on our plate, by trying to not deal with things like what we're talking here, by ignoring the signs and the symptoms of our body and not listening to them. And we just leave it instead of trying to regulate that pressure in there. Now, in your house, you would never do that with a pressure cooker. That thing's going to blow. It's the same thing as our human bodies, ourselves, our souls. We're going to blow. There's going to come a time where if you keep doing that and you keep adding more pressure cookers to the stove and you just keep adding and you turn it up on high, extra high now, we've added more heat. We got to just keep saying yes. We got to just keep doing all the things. And we can't have these conversations. Eventually, you're going to explode. And it's not going to be pretty when it happens. Because we have to listen and find that little balance where that little thing on top can just jiggle back and forth very gently, very nicely, and then we're humming along and doing all the things that we need to do. We release that pressure by doing the healing work that we're doing. That's a brilliant way to release that pressure, because sometimes we do. And I'm not saying that we're always in balance, because we're not, but it's paying attention to that and going, okay, you know what? You're right. I've got so much going on over here. I can't add any more over here. So let's not add another pressure cooker to our stuff this week, because it's not about how much we get done. A lot of times when we put this in a healing scenario, this comes to feeling like we need to do everything in order to be accepted and loved. And this was one of the sessions that I did this week. It's actually been a couple of sessions that I've done. That feeling that need to keep doing more and just saying yes so that we will be accepted and loved by others. Instead of realizing, and this is more inner child healing. And sometimes when I say that to people, they're like cringing. Oh my gosh, inner child healing sounds scary. It really isn't. Because what I do in these inner child healing sessions is go back to those places where you decided that the only way to get people's attention and love is to keep doing more and just say yes and keep adding more and more and more to your plate and prove to everybody that you can carry this an amazing pressure cooker load. And it doesn't work for very long, because this is where mental breakdowns come in. This is where depression happens. This is where anxiety soars through the roof. This is breeding ground for anxiety. When we are so out of whack and not listening to ourselves that we forget that we need to turn down the pressure a little bit. And so if you can take that analogy and think about that, where in your life have you all, have there been times in your life, that's the question I want to ask, that you have let the pressure cooker get out of control? And just put it in the comments. You can say hell yes again. This seems to be my word today. This is a hell yes or a hell no. Have there been times for you that you have let your things, the pressures of life, get out of control? You can put a hell yes or hell no in the comments. Because I think that at some point or another, we have all done this. I have a scratch in my throat, and I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cough for a second. At some point in our life, most of us, I believe, oh, Rini's coming on. I'm like, Rini's going to come on. We're going to take an about face. Hey, girl.
Hi, I'm so sorry.
You are just fine. Sorry, I have to cough for a minute, though. I'm like,
yeah. So I thought it was one. I think the heat wave like melted my brain and all these things. We were boiling for 3 days.
Well, I was just telling him, I'm like, Randy's not coming on. I have no idea what the heck I'm talking about because I'm just going to come on and do it anyway because I'd already scheduled it and I hadn't heard from you. So I was like, we'll just do it. So I was talking about the pressures of life and how we let things get out of control.
Yeah.
And instead of I was talking about this morning, and I haven't talked to you today, but I had to have some difficult conversations this morning and make difficult decisions. And how long we put those off sometimes because we think it's easier to just let it slide.
Yeah.
And so do you have any comments on that? I'm like,
I do. You know, actually, I just had a healing session with Michelle, lovely Michelle. And it ran over and it ran over because there was just like so much stuff that I was just like releasing. And, you know, and it's interesting because like the crux of it was also on this, like having this conversation that I've been putting off that I need to have because it's a difficult conversation. So I have lots to say about it. It's super important. Like for me, it's like, it's what's been blocking my energy. It's like, because then I like, there's like all this stuff around it. There's like worry and then it gets bigger, right? It's like anxiety is simply like avoiding the thing, right? It's like, and then that creates more. And it's this like cyclical loop. And I tell this to my kids all the time. It's just like, you just got to do it. Because the more you avoid it, the bigger the anxiety and worry and the energy, like gunk all builds up, right? The holding. And that just like takes our resources, you know?
It's funny that you say that because that's exactly what we talked about this morning. So I was telling them and telling, you know, I had to make a difficult decision this morning. It was in my business stuff and I let someone go this morning. Yeah. And I didn't approach it like letting someone go, but I knew there were some things going on. And it's like, look, here's an opportunity for you to have an out. Like, I get it. And so, but there was a little bit of me that was like, do we really want to have this conversation? Like, do we really want to have courage and strength? But for me, it was more of keeping the integrity in what I do. And just like what you're saying, because it's stifled, it's blocked some things. It's, you know, Sandra's saying it's like building a mountain out of a molehill. Yeah, like literally we let the mountain grow when we could have stopped it in its tracks a long time ago.
Totally.
But choose to be uncomfortable over a moment of uncomfortableness and then on. So yeah.
And then we have to deal with the whole mountain then, right? And then we have to clear out the whole mountain instead of just like sweeping away the molehill, right?
Now I need a backhoe instead of a shovel.
Right. Yeah, and then you need like the time, the space, the money to rent this backhoe, right? Instead of just like taking a broom and just Yeah, and it's like that because it's like, and energetically, it's like, for me, I feel like that's when it comes to this point, right, where it's like either you get sick or something happens, or, it's like it starts to affect you on other layers and levels.
We were talking about that earlier too, because I was like, I start feeling it in my neck and shoulders. That's usually one of the first places that I start feeling it. I'm like, ooh, okay, we gotta work on that. Because that's not, I mean, it's so funny that we choose to be uncomfortable while we're speaking our truth. Like, really? What the hell? Like, why would we? But we do it all the time. This fear comes up inside of us, and we're like, if I talk about that, or if I say that, somebody's going to be mad at me. Somebody's going to be upset with me. Instead of just saying, oh my gosh, here it is. I'm struggling. Like, and I think for me too, I've learned to have these conversations in a different way.
Yes.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest things along our healing journey, is to learn to have them in a different way. Like,
yes. I know, because when I was a kid, I was never taught these things. So when I was like learning and all these things, my learning process took me into like all sorts of things of like, and it's like, whether it's like getting really upset or shouting or caving in, or, like all these different varieties, or like passive aggressive, or just totally passive, or, and like how do you stand up and do that is really challenging to learn. And it's been one of the things I'm most grateful for, like aging, is like the things that I've learned, I wouldn't give that back. I wouldn't go back.
No, who would agree with that on here? I can see people, the wisdom that we gain, and we gain wisdom by going through hard things.
Mm-hmm.
We don't gain wisdom by sitting around and it just shows up. Poof, like you get it, It's like, how do you think these old ladies, I just, for some reason, I had that image of like Disney characters and all the old ladies that have all this wisdom, have all this gray hair, and all. It's like, how do you think they got there? They didn't just poof get wisdom. Like, they've lived it all. They've done it all. They've had every wicked witch come after them, and that's how they know all the secrets. Like,
wow.
So it's gaining that wisdom, and that I guess we should thank our gray hairs then, right?
Yeah, I tell my kids I've earned every single one. I have. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not ready to show mine yet, but someday I will be. I'm not there yet. I keep telling my hairdresser, someday I'll show, I'm going to start talking about it like that. Someday I'll let the wisdom all shine through. Like,
it's and however you show it, right? It doesn't have to be, but it's like even that, like earning that place in your heart, of just like, and I think that's that part of like the courage to speak your truth, is like, knowing that in your heart of like, I know this,
Absolutely. And no, because I know you've been through a lot of hard things lately. So have I. So have everybody that I've been talking to. It's like, it seems like there's a lot of that going around, but we do gain wisdom and we do gain strength, and we do learn to have more difficult conversations with different people in our lives. Like, so I just saw you write something down. Did you have something to add to all that? I'm like,
oh no, I just thought there was I thought I heard a buzzing, and I'm like, is that me? I don't think so.
I don't think it's me either. I think mine's shut off. I'm not sure. I'm like,
I was like, I think I'm all muted. But maybe I'm like, I think maybe my kid's phone is here.
There you go.
Yeah, I feel like, with like when I was a kid, I was really like indecisive. Like, and I was always like looking for the right path. Like there's this right path. And I think, what my wisdom has taught me is that I know I can trust myself, and that's like, and that's where I get courage from. Like I used to run from, like run from, my fears. Like I'd have a fear and I'd run from it. And it wasn't until, I would say in the last, I don't know, 10 years, I'll say 15 years. And that's my time of motherhood, that when I faced my biggest fears through being a parent, that I realized, wow, I'm still okay.
Yeah.
And then I faced my next biggest fear and I was like, oh wow, I'm still okay. And it's like after doing that a few times, now I'm like, okay, you know what? Not such a big deal. Like it's totally not.
And everything else. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
we'll even say like going on vacation, if you've ever went and traveled out of the country, like it's a totally different experience than going through the airports, and you got to go through customs and you got to do all the things. And the first time you do it, it's a little bit crazy. Like you're like, what in the heck are we, what is, it doesn't make sense. And then when you do it again, you're like, oh, this is just how it is.
Yeah.
And we survived. Like we made it through. Like nobody held us up in customs. Like
Totally.
so and then we do it again, and it's so different, and anything else is no different than our learning process. Like this is how we learn. You're right. This is how we grow, and getting that rhythm going and knowing that we're going to be okay because we've done hard things before. Like,
yeah, and collecting the tools along the way, right? Like the things that support you, and like having more familiarity with that, I feel like has even been part of the wisdom of like, okay, well, this works and that doesn't. And so it's easier now to like go to the things that work than the things that don't,
Yeah, absolutely. You said something earlier about how, and I've had the hardest time today. Like I get this train of thought, and then it's like gone. I'm like, what is that all about? But this familiarity thing, I feel like in our healing, I'm going to draw it back to healing. That's where I was going with that. Was like the more that we do it, and the more that we get in this process of doing this work, the easier it becomes. Not because the things become easier, but because our energy gets used to doing it and gets in that familiar space.
Yes.
And we learn to trust it a little bit more and do all the things just a little bit more, and trust that familiarity like that comes in. Also, I feel like too, that healed person inside of us, or that healing person inside of us, learns to trust our own inner wisdom and not look around to everyone else to answer our questions for us and do all the things for us. We really tap right back inside. It's that unhealed portion of us that's running scared, running around, terrified to do anything, calling 5 million people to get their opinion on, whether we should paint the deck.
And I feel like, I really feel like all of healing is inside, like all of healing, I really feel like is self-healing. And it's just like, it's not the Band-Aid or the cast, right, that heals it. It's just like the Band-Aid or the cast kind of creates a nice environment for the healing to happen. And it's like, that's the same thing. Like when I in my brick and mortar acupuncture bodywork practice, it's like I am not the healer because I do the healing. I'm the healer because I'm creating this container, and then you come in, you bring in you, and you do the healing. Like that's where the miracle is.
Yeah, absolutely. Creating that beautiful container for our clients is amazing. Like that's where we get the biggest transformation, I think, as healers. If we think we're doing, we are actively engaged in doing this work. There is no question about it. We watch it happen literally. Like, if people only saw what went on in our head, it would be might be a little freaky. We might want to climb that mountain, but that's besides the point. We won't scare anybody. But yeah, absolutely. Like we do just create that container for people to do their own healing work, and in a way that is productive and open. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, because what we were going to talk about today is what you have going on. That was part of what we were going to talk about today. So why don't you talk about what you have going on in Rini's world? Because Rini always has amazing things going on.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And I just had another meeting about it this morning. So my Magic of the Moon astrology readings, which are these 30-minute readings where you're really tapping into the magic of your moon as an astrological reading. It is very comprehensive. It is very like a custom, individualized. We meet on Zoom where we look at the sign, the phase, the lunar nodes, and we really can find out like what are your magical gifts? Like how do you best tap into your intuition? Like healing emotional blocks, like tapping into your greatest needs, also like your soul purpose, like all of this you can get just from this magic of the moon reading. And so it can help you like in your manifestation, in your healing journey, all of these things to really tap into your gifts. And you'll get like the recording of our time together, custom PDF with all of everything, the results from the reading, as well as like your natal chart. So I'm so excited about them. As soon as they got released, they just like people were flooding in. They've been so much fun to do. I've just been having so much fun with them. Yeah, and I'm building out around it too. So I'm just so excited for like for all of it to be released. But this is at least released right now, and yeah, it's definitely been like I could tell like striking a chord with people when I do the readings, really tapping into some really deep places, but also like how to use it. Like that's what I'm trying to get across in these readings is like not just like what are your magical gifts, but how can you tap into them? Like what are the ways, like what are the messages that the chart is saying for you to make use of this?
Yeah. I'm going to go book another one because you've actually been on my mind. And we did the extensive one.
We did the full chart reading. Yeah.
Full chart reading. And if you really want to I was blown away. I just sat back there because I don't do what Rini does. Like, I am not Rini. Like, she explains all this stuff to you. I have no idea. I can't even tell you the words. I've said that before. I'm like, I am not the astrological reader. I have no idea. But I enjoyed so much our session and being able to see why things work out the way they do and why it even went down to patterns and healing. And there were so many things. I mean, you explained to me that I have had, and you were right, some big healing things that is coming up, that has come up for me. Yeah. And I didn't even realize at the time. I knew there were some big changes coming, but I've had some big things happening. Yeah. You were right. Like, you were right on with all of that. So, and that's just all through our birthday and our name and all the things like,
yeah. And one of the things that really struck me when I released this is that a lot of people don't know, like everyone knows their sun sign, right? Whether they think about it or not, or interested in it or not, people kind of learn that. But what a lot of people don't know is that your moon has a sign. And that was a lot of like, a lot of the response that came out. And I was like, wow, So what it is like all of the planets are in the sky, and the birth chart is just where they were in the sky when you were born. And those energies are reflecting, they're reflecting you at the moment that you were born. And they shift through the sky. And so astrology is like looking at cycles. Some people talk about it like looking at like a really complicated clock. And I look at it like layers of cycles or layers of rhythms, layers of processes that we go through in this human experience. And so we can look at, based on when you were born and where you are right now, kind of where you are in those cycles and rhythms, and tap into those things in a very specific way. I know a lot of people think like astrology is very generic, and if you just read your sun sign in the in the blog, then it is really generic. But when you're actually looking at each individual planet and where they are, it's actually really surprisingly specific. Yeah.
That's what I'm telling you. Like, I'm talking about my healing because we were talking. In fact, that's the next question I'll ask you. But when we were doing mine, you were very specific about healing events that were coming up for me, why they were there, how they were going, not necessarily the how.
Right.
because we get our lessons, we can get them in a lot of different ways. But it definitely has happened for me, just the way that you said. So how do you think, let's bring this back to healing, how do you think this all plays into our healing process?
Yeah, I was just communicating that to somebody because I was taking another class this weekend, and the discussion came up of like sometimes there's astrologers who like incite fear, or maybe they're not even intending to, but it's really easy for that to happen. And to me, and I really love this teacher, Emily Trinkhouse. She's an amazing astrologer. Was in Portland, but it's really important for me for astrology to be a tool to give back power, like to empower someone, and to know that it's not predestined or predictive. Like you are your own person and you can make your own choices. And just like healing, like you can look for disease and you will find it, or you can look for healing and you will find it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't come from any of my healing from a disease mindset. Like I come from all of my healing as a light mindset, as a healing mindset. I think of like radiant health. And so that's how I do the reading. I do the reading for opportunity, for healing, for light, for transformation, all of those things. So, my goal is for a reading to be uplifting, empowering, and really to like give you the tools that you need to make the most out of that transformation, right? And so that it is an opportunity to gain then wisdom versus something where you kind of spiral out and end up like digging a hole, right?
Yeah. And to me, that's what I think of healing too. I was just doing healing earlier today, and it is all about inspiring. If we're not inspiring and uplifting people, to me, we're not putting the right energy into this world in any way, shape, or form. In anything that I do, like,
right.
I'm teaching spirit communication. You're going to be in my class.
Yeah,
the first thing we addressed is there is no fear in any of this.
Yeah.
Because there isn't. There's nothing to be afraid of. Other people want you to think there is, and that somehow it's fearful or scary, or you might get involved, caught up in the wrong energies and not even know it. And it's like, oh no, baby, like, that's not how this works. It's not how these energies work. And especially when we approach it from this non-fearful place.
Yeah.
You're not going to bring in, you can't empower people and bring in bad juju at the same time. Like it doesn't even cross over. Trish says my reading with Rini was mind blowing. Yeah, so good.
And it's also grounded, right? Because it's like you don't want it to be like so light and all this stuff. Like you want it to also be real. So there's acknowledgement of the difficulty and shadow, like you said. Like, I could prep you and say like, hey, you're going to have this time. It's going to be this opportunity, and this is how you can work with it. Like, some like the chart can be very clear. Like sometimes it's like, hey, self-care all the way, or lean into your community. Like I think of it like your cards, right? Your cards are so direct. Yeah. It's like the chart will have these messages embedded in it of like, here's this challenge, but this is what you lean into to make the most of it. So it's not like you're not in this place of like, oh, what do I do? It's like, oh, here it is. Oh yeah, that's right. This is my
Here's what we're doing. Yeah, this is how we're empowering ourselves to get through it. Because that's how I felt when you told me all this was coming. I was like, oh boy, because I felt like that I had already been through so much in that. About relationships, and I knew exactly where you were going with all this, but I was like, really, we've done so much work here, like,
right?
Oh no, let's get smacked in the face one more time, and remember, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be fine, like.
Yeah, and you are on your path, right? You are like going through it. There's no falling off. You just go through.
Yeah, we don't detour around it. This is back to having those difficult conversations. We're not, if we're going to heal, we're not detouring around this kind of stuff anymore. We're headed. In fact, I'm like, where can I get through it the quickest? Where's my path? I'm like looking for it. Like, where is it? Because I'm ready to, let's do this.
Yeah.
Like, I know the universe has got my back in all this healing stuff, so let's get this done.
Yeah. And I always find that like it's that like direct route to go deeper inside is usually like the most direct route, like the quickest way. It's like, okay.
Yeah, to me, I've been doing this a long time now, and so have you. And we just dive in. We're like, all right, we're doing this again. Fine, here we go. I'm not happy about it, but I will do it.
Yep, I know. Yeah, my treatment with what was it?
I was going to say, and I might say for a minute, really, we just did this. Like,
yeah, I know. Michelle was just like, hey, like energetic detox is a thing. So you know what? Like you may need a nap. You may need, whatever. It's like, all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely true. Yeah. We all need a detox sometimes.
Yeah.
I actually it's been probably one of the best things I've ever done. I took close to like 3 weeks off, and I didn't like totally take 3 weeks off, but I really just unloaded my load, and it was probably like one of the best energy detox. And I bring that up because we need it from time to time. Like we can't just keep going and running and not, there's that pressure cooker I was talking about again, and turn it up on high and leave it there and expect to function at a great rate. Like it's not going to happen. So taking time to take a step back. Well, I think it's pretty awesome. Where can people find you? What can they?
I can, my at ascension.activation.healing for Instagram and Facebook is probably the best. And you can DM me for the link.
Perfect. So just DM Rini if you want to do that. You won't, you will love it. If anybody's interested in learning your purpose, and I mean, all the things that come out of it, like you can't even, it's mind blowing. We can't even sit here and talk, because to me, it's just this big old circle of like, oh, cool. I get it. And it helps you know, to me, it was a way to refocus too and know where I kind of needed to start, like the healing portion of it. Okay, I get it. We're going to be going through this healing. Let's start refocusing, redirecting, relooking this way to see what we need to do. And maybe we can make some changes, and maybe so that I don't need a total detox when I'm done. Like I just need a partial detox. Like
totally. And being able to prioritize, right? Like these are the things that I got to put first, and then things tend to start working out. They start shifting.
Yep. Absolutely. Was there anything else you'd like to add to our conversation today? I'm grateful you came.
It was so lovely to be here. Thank you so much for having me again.
No, that's fine. We'll do it again. I love having you on. I love letting you come talk to all these beautiful ladies in here, because I like them to see your energy too. And I've been able to meet so many cool people this year, like Michelle Thomas that we were just talking about, and Rini, and Trish is in here. And it's so awesome to have these group of ladies who have this beautiful energy, and you're one of those. So, and other people need to see your light too. So I'm grateful that you're willing to come on and be here with me. Thanks for being on, and we'll go ahead and post. I guess you can just DM. I was gonna say we'll post a link, but we don't have we'll just post. Just DM Rini, or you can comment in here if you're interested in her stuff. Put your hell yes in there, because that's what we were saying earlier. Understand what we're going through. Yes, me. If you would like more information, and she can message you if you're interested in that. Trish, thank you. She says you ladies are both amazing. So we think you're pretty amazing too. So thanks for joining us all today, and thanks for being here. And we will talk to you all again very soon. So bye.
Bye.